Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back for another episode of Big Love. One thing that I'm learning from this series is that the dynamics and the relationships of this family are very all over the place, very intermingled, very complex, and very complicated. We found some additional things out about certain characters that has me wanting to know more. One of the people that I really hope they delve into more is Lois, because Lois is a complex character who's been through a lot of things, and they keep giving us little bits and pieces here and there, and I find myself wanting to know more. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button so we could jump into it, and then I could figure out what I'm going to do with this tree. I always keep a tree up in this room. Some of you all know that. With that being said, normally what I do is around the end of November, I switch out all of the ornaments to something else. And I don't want to. So what I think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to add additional ornaments to it so that it actually looks like it's something rather than like it's been sitting here for a year with the same ornaments on it, and get to it. I know y'all are probably like, why is she talking about a tree? Because it's annoying me. This ribbon right here and the way it's extra like is annoying me. So don't mind me. Let's go ahead. Bill's family, as we remember, has been threatened, and they've been kicked out of their homes. And we ended the last episode with them staying in a hotel. Well, it seems that it's only gotten worse, because now they've been kicked out of that. Did I say hotel? That was not a hotel. That was a motel, like a half a star establishment. So they've gotten kicked out of the motel too. Frank apparently used scotch tape and wrapped it around the cord of a crock pot, and that crock pot then exploded, creating an electrical fire. The fire was so severe that it burnt down not one, but two rooms at the motel. So they got kicked out. Now, Frank was trying to say it was because he was a polygamist, but Bill's like, it had nothing to do with you being a polygamist and everything to do with you burning down the rooms in the hotel. Frank doesn't feel like he was justified in being kicked out, though, because they don't really know what caused the fire, because he made sure he made sure that before the fire marshal and them inspected it, that he got rid of the crock pot that's created the fire. I said, who thinks to do this in a time like that? Like I said last episode, circus. So now Lois, Joey, Wanda, Frank, the dog, and three of the other wives are at Bill's homes, right? I'm sure the neighbors would have got a kick out of that, but Pam and her husband Carl aren't there for now. Now, how long of a period this is, I don't know, but we do hear them mention that it's a good thing that they're not here. So Frank doesn't seem to be staying inside of the house at the beginning, and it's confirmed that he was not. Because in the morning when Bill leaves for work, we see Frank sleeping in his truck. Then we later see him shaving in his truck. Barb is looking out the window, and she wants him to come in, even though Bill said no, that he wants him to stay outside of the house. Wanda, who is his sister-in-law, looks at Barb and is like, look, if I were you, I wouldn't let him in my house, because not only does he make Joey crazy and does Bill hate him, but he pees in the sink. I don't see the logic in peeing in a sink whatsoever. And I'm like, there's no way that this man is going to sit here and pee in other people's sink. But I should know better than that just based on the way he looks. Barb later finds out that not only does he do it in the sink, but he does it in the kitchen sink. I thought she was talking about the bathroom sink, but Wanda meant sinks, period. In a way. So Barb takes it upon herself to allow Frank to stay in Margene's house. But it doesn't take long for him to make his way into her house. She feels like the family needs to move on, especially with it being Easter, that a loving family needs to have forgiveness and things of that nature. And I'm looking at Barb and I'm like, okay, Barb, you're officially on my nerves. You're on my nerves because you're talking about all the things that this family needs to do when it's obvious that there's a lot more layers to it than what you're talking about, number one. Number two, this man, Frank, treats his wife like crap and treats his sons like crap, and you want them to just allow him to have free reign over your home doesn't make any sense to me. That man has been through a lot with his father. He was kicked out at 14, but you're talking about forgiveness. Interesting. Let's get into it. From what I can gather, the three wives are staying at Marge's house. They later come over to Barb's because they want to go shopping, but they don't want to go shopping with Barb. They want to go shopping on their own. And it said, why don't you just take Frank's car? And they're like, oh, no, we don't drive Frank's truck. So they want one of the family cars. Wanda, as she sees them coming, cannot get out the kitchen fast enough. She does not like them. She says that they are pious and they are mean. And I gotta agree that they are definitely those things. I feel like a lot of times when it comes to situations like these, that people use their beliefs as a reason to be nasty. And you can think whatever you want to think, and you don't have to be nasty, but they're very nasty and they're very judgmental. They are. So Frank tells them, go ahead and use Margene's car to go shopping. And they thank him for his generosity and his hospitality. They keep doing it throughout staying there, but I don't really feel like they mean it because it's always followed by some underhanded comment or something snarky or saying, after all, it's your fault that we're here or something along those lines, right? So they say, if it wasn't for you, we'd be naked at the mercy of the elements, completely on our uppers. I said, what? This is how they talk. So Frank wants the attorney's number because he wants to sue Roman. He tells his son, Bill, I want to sue him for $300,000 because of my house and $500,000 for pain and suffering. Bill's looking at him like, your house isn't worth $300,000. It's a dump. So he was like, I don't care. I want to sue him. So he asked for the attorney's number. Here's the thing. I don't really feel like he wanted to sue him. I feel like, and y'all tell me what you think, that he asked for that attorney's number because he wanted to give it to Roman. Because Frank very much so is still working with Roman. And we see it later on in the episode. Lois is in Sarah's room and she's being nosy. She's going through her closet. She's looking at different things. When she hears somebody coming and she hurries up and jumps in the bed to act like she's asleep. But it's Wanda. So Wanda comes in and they're talking about how uncomfortable the sleep was and how they got all these fluffy pillows and all these frilly things and they're not accustomed to that. She's like, girls shouldn't have so many things. I don't understand why you're judging them for basic things that you later in the episode seem to enjoy. So Bill walks in so Lois can sign paperwork to begin litigation. We'll get to that part because I left that in a whole nother section. Lois apologizes for disrupting their lives. And Wanda says, and we forgive you for disrupting ours as well. Wanda's a little spitfire. She's a little firecracker. Lois says, she's ready to get back home. She misses her things. She wants her father's Bible and his Book of Mormon and her photographs and all those things. She's not accustomed to being off of the compound. And that is her comfort. Even though for me, I wouldn't want to be there, for her, she wants to be there. So we see Sarah, who walks in and she brings her grandmother some plain polyester pillows at her request. Lois says, "You're so thoughtful. You didn't used to be. When you were 2, you slapped me." I said, "We're going to bring up stuff from when she was 2. Like, really, Lois? So she says, "I didn't like you for a very long time." I done got slapped by my son before when he was I think he was 2 too. And I accidentally, not no accidentally, my reaction was to slap him back, and I slapped him hard and he started crying and I felt bad. But no, we're not gonna hit. He slapped me in my face. Like, he slapped. My son is very heavy-handed. I found this out at a very young age. And when he slapped me, my head literally did the, with the slap. And my reaction was to slap him back. So I'm thinking of this and I'm laughing because she's sitting here and she's bringing this up. Like, this isn't something that occurs sometimes in children. You just got to correct them. You don't got to hold it against them for all these years. And now, because she's bringing you a pillow and some sheets that are plain and they're not pink, now you think, "Oh, okay, I can give you another chance." So she looks at her and she says, "You hold your cards close to your chest. And I do too." So there's like a time here where these people I see are getting to know each other, because this is your granddaughter who's well into her teens and you're just now figuring out some things about her. So even though the situation is uncomfortable for a lot of them, something good is coming out of it. So on to Nikki. We see Nikki calling her mother on the phone because she's trying to figure out a way to get help with her bills so that her husband, Bill, does not find out about it. Because she knows that her father knows that there's some debt there and Bill still doesn't. So she tells her Mom, I need some help with these things. I got to pay off, these credit card bills because I don't want to get kicked out. And she's like, "I have $60,000 in credit card debt." And any of us who heard that large of a number may gasp or maybe like, "Nikki, how did you get to that point?" Not her mother. Her mother acts like it's not a big deal. And this is when we find out why it's not a big deal. Because her mother says that you're over there basically complaining about $60,000 when I got $90,000. I said, "What in the world?" She says, "I got $90,000 because we needed a new bedroom when Roman married Rhonda." I said, "Okay, so she gets it from her mother, number one. Number two, what is Roman doing with all of the money that he's taking from all of these different people if she has to charge a bedroom on a credit card?" I don't understand the logic behind it. It's like he makes other people. Did he make her? Did she do it on her own? I don't know. I want to know more. So she says, "We all owe money up to our necks." Like, you're not the only person who owes a lot of money. We've been spending money like there's no tomorrow because we've been told there will be no tomorrow. She's like, "Matter of fact, we've been told on 3 different occasions that there will be no tomorrow. Your father has been off with his revelations lately." I said, "Oh, so this is her admitting that the so-called prophet has been missing with some of his thoughts." She's like, "So don't worry about being kicked out. Bill's not going to do that to you." Later on, her mother ends up calling back Nikki, tells Nikki, "I talked to Roman. He has paperwork now because he did did she call it a D&B, that found like all of the debt that she has. So he has paperwork showing how much debt that she has." Remember, her father originally didn't know it was that much. He only thought it was over $6,000 because of that one car. But we know that Nikki already told, Barb that it's almost $60,000, right? Well, first she tried to lie and say 20, but then she came out and told the truth, right? So she's like, "I don't know what he's going to do." there's nothing that I can do about it because he's going to be having a meeting later with your husband tonight at 8. And I'm not going to be able to sit in on that meeting. And Nikki's like, a meeting? And then she hangs up. When she hangs up the phone, she has a list of names and she crosses Nikki's name off the list. I said, so what exactly is this list about? Is this a list that he provides her with on who to contact to do his dirty work? Because it seems that a lot of what Roman does is move pieces on a board. What would they be called? Pawns? I don't play chess. He moves the various pawns, on the board, how he wants to move them. And they just do what it is that he wants them to do. He's surrounded by pawns that do his dirty work. I really hope I use that chess analogy right. Because I don't play chess and I'm sitting here. How dare you try to talk about something you know nothing about? So hopefully I'm using the right chess piece, okay? On to Bill and the attorney. So we see Bill with his attorney to discuss litigation. His lawyer lets him know that I spoke with the attorneys representing Roman. And based on the charges that's about to come down on Roman, his attorneys have requested to have, discussions of a settlement. But as usual, that's not enough for Bill. This man's son was just in your office, going through your things, taking stuff, helping himself to private property. But you want to keep fighting him, thinking that he's not going to continue to play dirty or that you're not going to have to give him something. Dumb. So despite Roman's attorneys saying that he's supposedly be willing to settle, Bill isn't trying to hear it. He says, look, I've already tried that and it's led to where we're at now. He said, Bill, what you did wasn't a negotiation. You presented him with a take it or leave it. That wasn't a negotiation. But Bill says, at this point, I don't want to talk about negotiations. I want to choose violence. Now, he doesn't say violence, but he wants to crush him. That's violence. He wants to crush him and bring him to his knees. The problem is, because of Bill's lifestyle, in many ways, he's at risk of losing everything if he's exposed. This is why it's not good to have secrets, because you constantly have to lie and manipulate and hide and have people like Roman who can hold things over your head. And that's the state that he and his family's in. So his lawyer is like, you want to do what Utah has been trying to do for the past 50 years. Why is it that they can't get this done? They obviously haven't been doing a good job, because here we are, remember what episode this is, 8 episodes in, and I see a lot of stuff that they could use against the man. In the second or third episode, we saw the ledger that had how much he was getting from all these different businesses. Y'all got stuff going right here, but y'all aren't really trying to do your job, in my opinion. So he wants to build a case against them. So we hear the attorney as he begins to say this. We got unjust enrichment against the UEB and Roman Grant. I need your mother and your brother's signatures. Unfair termination of employment against Eagle Gas and UEB as trustees in the name of Lois Henriksen. I need your mother's signature. Discovery motions for both suits. Against actions, Roman Grant and the UEB declaring loan agreement unenforceable under the UCC. Need your signature. Tort action against Roman Grant for physical assault of Lois Henriksen and said forcible eviction. We then see a picture of Lois. It didn't show her arms, but it showed a bruise that was right here on her chest, and she's pointing to it like this. And he's looking at it, and he's. So we're requesting $500,000 for pain and suffering, and last but not least, breaking and entering trespassing claim against Albert Grant for events surrounding forced entry, and break-in at Home Plus on or about April 2nd for 1 million smackers. He says to him, I'm letting you know now, once you sign this, there's no turning back. Bill doesn't hesitate to sign the stuff that he has to sign and take the stuff that he has to present to the others to sign. So we're back in Home Plus, where a nosy Wendy is questioning security about the break-in that happened in the office. I'm calling her nosy because I don't like her, but if I were in her situation and if I worked at this establishment, I would be questioning things too when it comes to there being a break-in and nothing being done about it. I got to be honest, right? So she's telling the security officer that I think he made copies, and the person kept going in and out of the office. The first quarterly reports are missing. The second quarterly reports was sitting next to the fax machine as though it was going to be sent somewhere. Did she say fax or copy machine? Some machine. A stack of the vendor accounts were found in the parking lot. They tried to even hack into the system. The fact that they're going this far to find out his financials and Bill doesn't think that this is a problem makes no sense to me. None whatsoever. To the point where all of that information should be heavily guarded because they already have shown you what they're capable of. Bill hears all of this and he says, we're probably okay. While Wendy is still standing there looking like, what? He kind of dismissed her, but she's standing off by the door. And the security officer, I think his name was Dan, maybe, the D guy, says, no one knows that, it was Albert Grant. Y'all tell me if Nikki heard that or not. Not Nikki, Wendy heard that or not. Because she was standing right in the doorway. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I hear stuff that is like whispered more than I hear the loud stuff, right? Like my ear just tunes into it. So I would have probably heard that. I said, okay, well, they know now because the mouth of the South is in there. Wait. I just said the mouth of the South, but they're in Utah. The mouth of the West. Nope. Mouth of the South sounds better. The mouth of the South, even though they're in the West, is in there. And she gonna run and tell everybody. This is what she does. And I think Bill kind of knows that she's gonna say something too. So she says, Mr. Hendricks, the employees are concerned because they know that, the burglar was caught and let go. People have, concocted wild stories as to why the burglar was let go. And I tell them, that Mr. Henriksen has his reasons for doing it because, there's something that, is there something that I can say to put an end to all this gossip, Mr. Hendricks? He tells Wendy, if the police become involved, then, this becomes public record and their insurance will go through the roof as a result of that. So he's going to have to handle it privately. And he's telling her that. He leans in confidence. So she is like, oh, she looks like she kind of buys it. Y'all tell me if you think she bought it. I think for a split second she bought it. So that's the story he tells her. We see Roman with bunches of accordion files coming from, and manila folders coming from Home Plus, even has a logo on it. And we see him going through the files and he's chuckling. He's probably chuckling thinking about all the money that he's about to get off of this man. So back at the house, Frank is pissing in everyone's kitchen sink. Not only is he pissing in the sink, but it stinks because his nasty tail can't bother cleaning out said sink once he's done peeing in the sink, which is ridiculous that you step on a step ladder and pee in a sink anyways. You got time to grab a step ladder and do all of that. You got time to wait until the bathroom is unoccupied. Sarah comes in the kitchen, goes near it. hears the discussion, smells it, and is grossed out by it. And she says, I'm not eating dinner. I'm with Sarah because, number one, it's a kitchen sink. Number two, Frank looks like he stinks. 3, it's a kitchen sink. 4, Frank looks like his piss stinks because he doesn't drink any water. 5, it's a kitchen sink. Like, ugh. The thought of it. No, he would be out. So Marge, we find out, never gave the 3 sister wives that are extra close the car keys. They want to go to the store. They want to know what's being cooked for Thanksgiving because Frank likes ham and Frank likes marshmallows for the yams. I always call them sweet potatoes because that, you know, when you say yam in my household growing up was a white yam or a yellow yam, and it was not sweet. You have with some ackee, you do it in your stew, you do it in your soup. Like it wasn't a sweet thing. So when they say yams at first, I made it because I was like, oh yeah, sweet potatoes. So they end up getting the keys. Frank has made his way back into Barb's house yet again, even though he's not supposed to be there. And he's trying to figure out why Bill is trying to keep him and Lois apart, because this is supposed to be their honeymoon, which makes me feel like they did end up having their legal marriage. Nikki tells Lois that your husband is peeing in the sink, and she calls Frank a pig and he calls her a witch. They are going back and forth, arguing back and forth. Margie then gave the wife the keys reluctantly, and we see those chicks pull off and they can't drive. They are driving like this, like they have a stick shift or something, or they keep pressing on. I don't need to keep doing that. But the car just kept jerking and jerking and jerking and jerking, and then they peel off. I thought, oh no, this isn't good. So Bill is standing there as the wives peel off, and he is getting dizzy, and he is feeling sick. And he asked Marge to take him to the doctor. I said, okay, this isn't smart because Marge isn't the legal wife, but nothing came of it. So while in there, the doctor says he can't tell anything's wrong based on the stuff that he did. He then looks at Mrs. Henriksen and says, Mrs. Henriksen, can you leave the room for a moment? And she's looking like you could tell there was a little, oh shoot, he called me that, but oh, that's nice. So she walks out the room and she's standing outside. As soon as she leaves, the doctor says, okay, what are you taking? Is it this is it, or this? Saying some sexual, performance drugs. And he's like, which one do you use? And at first he tries to deny it, but the doctor is not dumb. And the doctor's looking at him like, just tell me what you're using. So he's like, yeah, I'm doing a little, I'm doing something. He says, yeah, your eyes gave you away. And he shows the light. And I guess there's pinketing or something that occurs under the eyes that he notices. So he's like, are you using 25 millimeters or 55? And Bill says, milligrams or 55. And Bill says, 100. The doctor's like, 100? Marge is outside the door. 100? Like, we're doing 100? Because he doesn't know that the man has all these wives. He's like, how often do you take them? He's like, I've been taking them for a couple of months, 2 to 3 times a day. I had, one last night and one this morning. And the doctor's like looking at him like, what the hell? Like, what kind of, give the lady outside a break. He says, a man your age isn't designed to perform like a horse. I said, okay. I feel like he's not only saying that because of how many pills he's taking, but because he sees that there's a significant age difference between Marge and this man who's in his office. And he probably feels like he can't keep up with this young lady that's behind him. Further making me feel like this marriage was not done at an appropriate age. She's too young for him. He says, you're not a man of 25. I don't even feel like Margine is 25, but interesting choice of words. So she comes back in the room and he says, it was stress and it's my blood pressure. But let's just keep this between us because I don't want to alarm, the other wives. So he comes home to Barb, who is going through bill withdrawals. She's struggling. And she tells him while they're standing outside that she feels like she's robbed, like they've stolen him from her. And I'm looking and I'm saying, I do not feel like Barb wanted this. It's giving me a little bit of Mary tease. Because if you read the Sister Wives books, if you listen to them with us, one of the things that was said in the books was that Mary was reluctant about this. She was trying to figure out whether or not she wanted to do it. And Cody is the one who convinced her to want to do it. And I feel like it's similar in that situation, right? There's various parts of the wives that I can see here where they all have different, characteristics of some of what we've seen on TV. So Nikki is looking on as Bill and Barb talk. I can't tell if she could hear them, but she's definitely watching them. And you hear Barb say that she wonders if she's being selfish. And he tells her, no, you're not selfish. You're not. And they look at each other and you can tell that there is love between them. I really do feel like he loves Barb. I don't know his stance on the other wives, but I feel like he is in love with Barb. So Bill is called back to his attorney's office because there are 8 FedEx boxes with countersuits on his desk, and it's been given to him on a Saturday. We hear one of the claims is breach of contract for $5 million, false imprisonment of Albert Grant at the premises of Home Plus, that they want $500,000 for that, assault and battery against his mom because he assaulted another man by the name of Zavon Dalton, kicking him in the testicles, and they want $300,000 for that. And then we see a picture of balls of scrotum in a little dinghy. You see this? You see this right here? You see this top right here? The little dinghy won't even that big. We see Bill's facial expression like, what? It literally looks like balls in this little thing like this. It's so, I was like, how did they get that? He need to use that $300,000 to go get some enhancement because that is terrible. So he tells him, like, look, if we file this thing on Monday, we can be into court as early as 8 to 10 weeks. But Bill looks like he's reluctant now because of this counterclaim. So back to the wives, Frank's wives have come home from shopping and they have put a scratch on Marge's car. But Nita, who seems to be the head wife over the 3, denies it. And Nikki is like, look, y'all going back and forth. It's not worth it, Marge. And Nita tells Nikki that you need to get control of Marge. So Nita controls the wives. Because why are you telling this woman to get control of another woman? Who do you think you are? Oh, in your eyes, you're the leader. And in your eyes, those wives should do the same. Odd. So Barb is struggling and Nikki is noticing. And Barb says she's sad, but there's nothing that Nikki could do about it. We see Joey as Barb is outside looking for the Easter eggs that they died. And he confides in Barb. I think it's interesting that of all people, he chose Barb. I think that he chose Barb for a specific reason. Let's get into it. So he lets her know that he went to an unemployment agency. He wants to start over and he wants to move off of the compound. That he does not want to be a polygamist anymore. He doesn't really know if it's for him. He says he hasn't told Wanda because she's worried about the Celestial Kingdom and what will happen to them if they do not choose polygamy. And Barb says, "You're a monogamous?" And there's a accusatory tone with a little shock, followed by what seems to be sadness to me. Y'all tell me what you see in it. He says, "Barb, all I can do is listen to my heart, and my heart is telling me that for me, Wanda is it. But don't tell Bill." So he's worried about what his brother would think, which often is what happens in these situations. People feel obligated to be a part of this because it's what they're said. But I think that if he were to have a conversation with his brother, that maybe there may be a different thought there based off of the conversation that we saw him have a couple episodes ago with Ben, where he said some men are called to it and some aren't. So he says to Barb, "It's strange how you're a polygamist here," implying to me that it's not something that Barb wanted. He gives her a kiss and he walks away, and she starts crying. What does that mean? Why is Barb crying? Is it because this is something that she didn't want? Is it because she took this on for the sake of Bill? Because, like Sarah said, it's what her father wanted to do. So Bill is walking into his kitchen and he sees his nasty behind father standing on the little step stool, peeing in the sink. I'd lose my sugar honey iced tea, because why are you peeing in my sink in front of my sons? He tells him that the reason why he pees in the sink is because the bathrooms are always occupied by women, and holding it could lead to kidney failure. Well, guess what, sir? You would have to knock on the door and go with them. Have you never entered the bathroom while your woman was taking a shower? Like, y'all really don't look at each other at all. Y'all really have relations with your clothes and all that other stuff on. Like, come on, something got to give. Tell her to turn her back while you pee. I mean, has she never seen your stuff? I don't understand this. So he is upset, and I would be upset too. And he tosses him and his things out to his truck, tells him you can only come in for 30 minutes for your meal, for one meal, and to take a shower, and that's it. He wouldn't be in my house at all. So we see Sarah, and Sarah is putting Lois into a nice hot bubble bath. I love a good bubble bath, you guys. Don't judge me, right? But here's the thing. I still take bubble baths, but I also have to take a bath and then follow the bath with a shower, because I feel like when you take a bath that you're soaking in your dirt and your dead skin, and I don't like that. So if you're soaking in your dirt and your dead skin, then that means you're still dirty. So you have to shower it off afterwards. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. So Sarah starts talking to her, and Sarah's like, I noticed that your hair is different from the other ladies in the compound. I didn't even notice it. Like, it completely was something that I didn't pay attention to. But she's right, because all the other ladies have longer hair. It's pulled back. It's braided. We see Rhonda sometimes with her half up, half down thing, but they all have long hair. Lois then talks about her daughter, Margaret. And she says that her daughter, Margaret, drowned in the lake. After she died, she was extremely sad. I want to know more about that. I hope they tell us more about that, because there's something to that, and it has forever changed Lois. So she says, we weren't always ignorant. We used to learn a lot. My father, who is your great-grandfather, Orville, would teach us a lot. And one of the things that he taught us was about the ancient people. And he told us that one of the customs of the ancient people was that when people had sorrow, that they would cut their hair. So when Maggie, and she pauses and she can't say it because it's still very much so, it's something that she feels. She says she just cut it all off. She says after she cut it off, Nita and the other sister wives and Frank hated her for it. Everybody thought that she was different. They thought that she was proud and that she was ugly. She's basically like, maybe ugly, but special. And Sarah says, marked. And Lois says, marked. Lois has really been through a lot. And her telling this story showed another layer of her. And as she was telling it, I felt myself getting a little emotional for her, because She lost a daughter in a tragic way, and that type of loss just hits differently. So it's time for Easter dinner, and Frank can't even carve the turkey because he's dizzy and he can't focus. Barb notices that he struggled, and so does Marge, but Marge knows the situation. So Marge, in the dramatic way that she does, because she lacks no subtlety, jumps up and says, I'll carve the turkey, I'll carve the turkey. You like dark meat, da-da-da-da, right? Subtlety is not her strong suit. Everyone is at the table but Lois. I noticed that Frank is sitting at the table with the kids and Wanda. When Frank says, leave her and her sorry self and cut me a piece of that meat, he always talks junk when it comes to Lois. I don't like it. He then looks at Joey and says, I got it. Oh, remember? I got it. Oh, y'all, I'm about to show y'all too much. I hope I didn't show anything just then. If you saw a little bit of nip. No, you didn't see no nip. If you saw a little bit of titty, I'm sorry. Anyways, back to the show. So he acts like, he dropped the ball. Frank is a prick, and he uses the same jokes over and over again, and he likes to insult and belittle certain members of his family. Wanda looks at him and says, it's not funny. It wasn't funny the first time you said it, and it's not funny now. I said, okay, Wanda, I'm kind of adding you to my list here of people I can tolerate. Frank then says, as he's passing him the beans, I'll have some beans, Fumbles. So he's always calling him names. Wanda, which makes me wonder if he got kicked off the team. Like, why you keep talking about mistakes he made while playing football? So Wanda says, I told you, old man, lay off of Joey or else I'll finish the job someone else started. And she yells, I'll kill you. And it gets the attention of the entire table. But I'm glad she said it because Frank is a jerk. Nita, with her how much can I kiss Frank's butt tail, stands up and says, please stop picking on Frank. That's all anyone has done since we've arrived. Lady, your nasty husband and you are a piece of work. Your nasty husband has pissed in the sink. Not only does he pee in the sink, but he doesn't have the decency to clean it up when he's done. Your nasty husband insulted the wives and the sons and his son's mother, but y'all are staying in his house. But you don't have anything to say for that. You only say something because you feel like Frank, who's picking on everybody else, is being picked on. She can get kicked out too. Especially knowing that all y'all been mean to my mama, get out. None of them heifers would be in my house. None of them. So she says, we appreciate your charity bill, but you're the reason that all of us are, got kicked out of our homes. No. The reason why is because of your fake behind profit. He's walking around acting like a mobster and y'all are okay with it. But you got a problem with what Bill's doing. This was not supposed to be this long. So Frank walks over and complains about Marge, how she's cutting the meat. And she tells him, you shouldn't be worried about it because you don't like turkey. Remember, you like ham. And she talking about the scratch in her car. And Lois walks in, and Lois is spiffied up. She's wearing brighter colors. She added a little volume to her hair. She said, I told you they were all liars. Anita, you leave Margine alone, you bully. Frank then insults Lois's new hair, tells her she looks like a poodle, says you look like Madame Fifi. Then he starts barking at Lois from the other end. Like he's like, making all them barking sounds at the table. Nikki tells him to stop, and he barks again. Bill's like, leave. Get out. Easter has meaning for our family and you're messing it up. Wanda then storms out, runs to the car, and tries to start the car with a screwdriver. Do they not have the key? I'm like, okay, we got a flathead and we're starting. Like, this is what we're going to do. So she expresses her concerns for Joey that she's afraid that he's going to crack. And she's like, I want to move. He says, I want to move and get an apartment, but she wants to go back to the compound because she's worried about what's going to happen in terms of them in the afterlife. And she doesn't want him to succumb to the bad temptations, which makes me feel like, once again, maybe he was an alcoholic or maybe he was into drugs. I'm going to lean more towards alcohol because she keeps talking about it. He reassures her that that's over. So we see Bill tell Joey that he wants Roman off his books as a silent partner, that there's millions of dollars that he cannot make in real estate until he's off his books. He explains to Joey, that's why I reorganized the franchise. Bill admits that he got greedy and stopped giving him money, so he's going to have to make a deal. So they talk about it. They say they're going to leave at 8. Right before they're about to leave, their father, Frank, hears them saying that they're going to leave to go talk to Roman. So they leave. And Frank picks up the phone and tells Roman that Bill is on his way and he's about to cave. You're staying in my house. Your wives are staying in my house, and you're over here betraying me and advising him on basically how to get more money that you're not going to see out of me. He says, if I were you, I wouldn't settle with him right now. I think you can get a better deal later. He then says, can I come home now? Like he's a kid. And Roman says, you and your precious wives can come home anytime you want. And the smile on his face and the smirk on Roman's face say it all. He thanks Roman and says, God bless you. We see the sons arrive in Juniper. Roman doesn't answer. He doesn't show up. So Bill heads to his mother's house because he's like, I need to get a few of her things. When we see a guy come out saying that he and his family have been assigned to live there. Bill tells them to leave. Next thing you know, Joey punches them and the men are fighting. And it's a bunch of men, but Joey and Bill kind of hold their own. I said, all right, guys, you go. They're a little banged up, but not for real considering how many people were in the house. We see Nikki go over to Barb, say to her, I have one question. I'll never bring it up. Is it over? Barb says yes. Nikki says thank you, walks out, and she looks relieved. Back on the compound, Bill decides he's going to go and confront Roman at his house. And he tells his brother to wait outside. He barges in the bedroom, says, you stood me up, and starts yelling and is fussing at him. The wife starts yelling, help, someone is broken in. And ladies of all ages pop out left and right like popcorn. And I said, how many wives does he have? When Adeline, the mom, says, you know, Bill, how dare you pop up here on an old man and 14 defenseless women? So we know he has at least 14 wives. I didn't see Rhonda. Maybe I missed her, but none of that house is defenseless. Next thing you know, the wives are attacking him. They're hitting him. They're pulling his hair. Nikki's mom says, get him in his privates. Get him in his privates. I said, oh, okay, we're playing dirty. And Roman is sitting on the bed and he's smiling because, as usual, other people are fighting his battles. They're hitting him, I said, pulling his hair. Bill says, stop it or I'll kill him. And they all stop. And he says, leave us be. He very easily could have killed him. He slams the door. He tells him, look, I'm going to give you 15% of the second store off the books from me. Nothing else from any of the future stores. And my family is going to come back to their homes here on the compound. Roman says he'll think about it. Bill's like, there's nothing to think about. You're going to make this deal, or this guitar you hold so dearly, and he holds it up like he's about to hit it, is destroyed. But he ends up taking home the guitar, and he brings it into the house, right? So he and Joey laugh about how rough they look. He says, I'm going to go tell mom what's going on. He goes upstairs, sees the dog outside, wanting to come in the room. He opens the door to tell his mom, and Frank is in the bedroom. And Frank raises behind him. Like he's behind the mama. So first it's like this. You see the tree? You don't see no Frank. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's Frank. And he does a to him. This man winks at him. Yet another woman that's so desperate to have love that she's taken this dirty looking man who treats her like crap, who calls her things like a witch and insults her left and right, who wasn't there for you after your child passed, who hurt you, who calls you names, who has ostracized you, has done all these things. But here he is, and you're letting him lay in the bed with you. I hate it. I like Lois, but I hate it. Bill goes into the room with Barb. She tends to his wounds. He lets Barb know that he's settled with Roman, and a makeout session ensues. I'm assuming that they had relations afterwards. And they end the episode with the dog by the pool looking out to the sky. And that is it. Y'all let me know what you thought about this episode. I didn't plan on being here this long, but there was a lot of moving parts and I felt like we needed to talk about it. If there's something that I missed that you want to talk about, feel free to put it down below. Hopefully, I didn't expose myself too much. Might have to actually go back and watch this. Anyways, let me know your thoughts. We're on the road to 2K. We're almost there. Hope to get there sooner than later. Until next time.